Broadcasting live to Bills Mafia Worldwide with Greg Thompson and Aaron Quinn.
Welcome to the NFL.
Doesn't matter what's happened before today. Today's a brand new day. It's a brand new season.
Your number one podcast for objective Buffalo Bills coverage. No matter where you are, we got you covered.
Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast. You are joining your host, Greg Thompson, along with my partner in crime, Aaron Quinn. Aaron, how we doing?
You know, Greg, it's kind of weird. What happened to the season? How are we already at the end of a season, man? Like, it feels like we were just having Connor on not that long ago, mid-season, talking about all the problems with this Bills team. And here we are at the end, playoff bound. Hopefully AFC championship bound or AFC East championship bound here this week. But it just blew my mind when I was getting ready for the show. Like, this is it. This is the last one of the regular season. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is wild. And I think that, you know, a lot of fans have already moved on and already planning for the playoffs. But, you know, we're bringing on our man Connor Rogers because this Jets team is trending the right direction. Before we dive in, make sure you check out our sponsors, Underdog Fantasy. Download the Underdog Fantasy app. Use promo code COVER1. Get yourself a little free money. Uncle Jumbo's, make sure to check them out. I had the pleasure of meeting one of our Cover One Premium Slack members, Hugo, over from Portugal. He traded me some Portuguese whiskey for a bottle of Uncle Jumbo. So Uncle Jumbo's is going international and flying back to Portugal. So make sure you check them out. All kinds of good stuff they got going on. Obviously, their new Frontier Bourbon whiskey. Make sure to check that out. We'll talk about our Uncle Jumbo spotlight later on this game. Without further ado, our man from the Bleacher Report, Connor Rogers. How we doing, sir?
What's up, guys? What's going on? Always good to see your familiar faces during Jets-Bills week.
You know, it was funny because we were getting ready for this episode, and I reached out to Greg, and usually we talk about who we're going to have on. And oftentimes we don't like to have the same guy on twice, get another reporter from the area, different perspective. I was like, hey, let's have Connor again. We love having you on. And to me, though, it also felt like it was so long ago that they played the Jets, but really it wasn't that long ago.
It feels like me out. When I saw it was week 10, it blew my mind. I was like, really? It was only week 10? I would have guessed like week 5 or 6 or something like that. It
feels like it.
And we were discussing Mike White madness. If you wanted it to feel even further away, like Mike White hasn't even been like active for the Jets.
Sorry for blowing that for you guys.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's okay.
Hold the cover back.
Oh man, it's funny. Aaron, I'm loving the New Jersey Sucks sign behind you. I see you know, you had to be relevant for your guests tonight.
I have to embrace it, right?
I have to tell you this. You'll laugh at this. I'm from New York, so I don't get offended when anyone ever craps on Jersey, even though I do live here now. So I was in my neighborhood walking, and I was walking across the street from the coffee shop, and a guy across the street was right after we did the show, like 2 days after we did the show, he goes, hey, I saw you on a show I watch. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, I was just like, couldn't imagine what it would be. And he's like, yeah, Cover One. Like, I'm a huge Bills fan. And I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, what? It was the last thing I expected. Nicest guy in the world. So if he's watching again, shout out to him.
Awesome. Love hearing that, man.
It was fun. It was really funny, honestly.
But obviously, we dove through, you know, the detail, talking through each of the position groups and everything there. So we're not going to go through the exact same thing. But I think Bills fans, maybe with our crazy up and down season and how hyper-focused we've been on the team, I think a lot of Bills fans maybe have missed this recent swing from the Jets. And it's not necessarily translating into huge W's and big wins each time. But you know, taking the Buccaneers to, you know, a 24-10 lead into the fourth quarter, you know, winning a couple games here. And obviously from the fan base, most importantly, some turnaround play from rookie Zach Wilson. So talk just at a high level, where has it pivoted from where I know early on there were some questions even about Saleh. There were some questions about some of the draft picks and signings. And like every fan base, we certainly know rough seasons, like just like Jets fans do. It's easy to fracture the fan base and to start to have different factions just arguing over who is at fault, to now has this run been a little more unifying and maybe given a glimmer of hope going forward?
Yeah, it has. And I think the Tampa game is the real one because, like, the Jets, if they couldn't beat Houston or Jacksonville, you'd really scratch your head and be like, oh boy, like we have bigger problems than we even expected. So the fact that you should have beat Tampa, besides a bad, really came down to a bad 4th and 2 decision, and Tom Brady being Tom Brady at MetLife Stadium, throwing against a couple of UDFAs and day 3 cornerbacks. They should have beat Tampa. So that's the one where you look at it and go, wow, now you're seeing real progress with this team, most notably about the quarterback. And probably about the last time I talked to you guys, we were just coming off the whirlwind of like people in the first half of the season wanting Mike LaFleur fired. And now Jets fans think this is the best offensive coordinator they've had in the last decade, at least. So a lot has changed. I think what it comes down to is it's a young quarterback that is just more comfortable in the offense. Since he's been back from the injury in week 12, I don't think he's thrown an interception, or at least maybe threw one since week 12. So he's not turning the ball over. He's actually making plays with his legs, which is what a lot of people were excited about him when he was drafted. And the fact that it's a creative offense that is getting the most out of not really having their pieces. There's no Corey Davis. Elijah Moore's been out for a while. Michael Carter's been in and out. He was on IR for 3 weeks. They've dealt with tons of injuries on the offensive line, a couple injuries at tight end, and he's still found a way to kind of get it done for the most part. So I think the fact that the quarterback's cut down the turnovers, he's made some explosive plays, and the offense for the first time in a very long time, you guys know Adam Gase all too well, the offense for the first time in a very long time actually has an identity where you understand what they're trying to do, and they are executing for the most part.
Yeah. Now, the last time we talked to you, though, we were talking about, Mike White and maybe being a better fit for this offense and getting the ball out faster. And that's sort of the LaFleur model of what he wants to do. But we see Zach Wilson sort of, it's kind of weird because he's the opposite of the system that LaFleur is trying to implement here. And he holds on to the ball some of the longest in the league. A lot of his plays are what we saw in college, right, where he's extending plays and making plays with that arm. At what point does he come more towards LaFleur? Does LaFleur start to change more towards Wilson to get more of a symbiotic relationship going forward to really capitalize on those skills that he has?
That's a great question, Aaron. And I think it's been honestly both. And I think you have to, every great coach has to be that way. If you're going to be the coach that is so stuck in your ways, you're going to be disappointed because you're never going to draft the perfect player for your system. You might draft a couple that work, but you're never going to get it perfect necessarily, especially at quarterback. But there's a reason Mike LaFleur has gotten to this position at age 34. I mean, that's crazy to be a play caller at 34. The guy's very bright. He's very smart, and he understands where the game is going. I think for Zach, he is buying in. He is getting the ball out. And the biggest thing you see with Zach is when guys aren't open, and you guys will see this a lot on Sunday, guys are not open a lot. Keelan Cole, Jeff Smith, they don't even play Mims anymore. Berrios is very good in the short area, but he's a backup slot for a reason until this opportunity. These receivers aren't getting open. Zach is going to the check down or making a play with his legs. And you know what? Do that instead of force an interception or take a sack or take these giant hits that got him hurt in the first place. So I think he's buying into getting the ball out. He's buying in that it's not BYU. You can't just roll out every time and throw the ball 60 yards down the field. It's going to be fun when one day maybe he could do that, here and there. With Elijah Moore back, there's the chance of that. But overall, I think he's doing the simple things well, and things are just slowing down for him, quite frankly. It's a cliche, but that's a real thing for a young quarterback.
So now you obviously look into that, and, we'll start a little bit here. Some of the players that I'm nervous about going into this game, you still have Quinnen Williams. You still have, the pieces on this defense that Bills fans don't know, Jonathan Franklin Myers and pieces like that. That's the biggest area of concern. And Aaron and I talked about it earlier that going in here, if the Bills are going to make a run in the playoffs, they're going to have to survive combinations of Jeffrey Simmons or, DeForest Buckner or Chris Jones. And I told people hey, I think the Bills should win this weekend. I think they should be in a position to be able to clinch the division and all the things that go there. But honestly, I'm kind of interested in the microcosm of this litmus test of this interior D-line. One, who is and who isn't on the COVID list? And do you think we're going to see Quinnen Williams here this weekend? And how has that development gone in what prior to his, COVID IR stint has been the breakout season many saw coming?
Yeah, so I think normally, Greg, you're spot on. I think it would be a really good warm-up test. I think this D-line has not lived up to the expectations to the fullest, but they lost Lawson. Huff was out for a while, so they really had no edge presence, and they relied on the interior too much. And Rankins has been really good. That's been a nice surprise. Now, what I'll say about this game, Quinnen just got off the COVID list this week, and he was legitimately sick. He said that he was not feeling well for a full week, and I mean, not feeling well at all. And he's vaccinated, so he just got sick. It came down to that.
We saw that with John Feliciano here. He ended up in the emergency room.
Same situation, and he was vaccinated as well. And
right.
So for Quinnen, I think they're not going to play him more than 50% of the snaps. So I would think. I'm curious to see where his stamina is, and maybe I'm wrong, but I would be surprised. This whole D-line's been on and off the COVID list, so they've been rotating a lot. You're going to see a lot of names that, like Ronnie Blair or Tim Ward, like names that just are rotated in and out that are usually third and fourth string on the roster. So there will be good tests when Rankins is in there, when JFM is in there, if Quinnen is fully up to stamina and speed again. And Quinnen, I think, is a really good player. I don't know if he's lived up to being the number 3 overall pick. I am kind of curious to see how his on-paper production translates when a real edge rusher is playing next to him. I think that's something that Jets fans
get Lawson back next year.
Yeah, way too harsh on him for. And I don't think he's a star. I think he's a really nice player right now. So it is an interesting matchup for the Bills. We know
Allen, where we're at with Ed Oliver, right?
Yeah, Ed has had flashes of brilliance, and then times where you're like, why don't you take over games all the time? And I actually liked Ed better than Quinnen. I know it was like the hottest take of that draft for me. And I think both of them have been good, not great.
Yeah. So I have a question though about this defense, more kind of big picture, right? Saleh's brought in to sort of correct this historically franchise bad defense for you guys. And it sort of got, at least on paper, has gotten worse. I know a lot of that has to do with some of the stuff you talked about, the in and out of COVID, weird year, injuries, things like that. Mosley's had a down year here in this defense. What specifically are you seeing? Is it just a lack of the personnel for what Saleh's trying to do? Is it something that he can turn around in an offseason and get this going in the right direction? Where are you guys sort of the pulse of this fan base and getting that defense turned around? Because that's really sort of what he's brought in to do, right?
Yeah. Well, first off, when the defense is this bad, it cannot just be one thing. That's
sure.
Like when you're this bad, there's a lot going on. So yeah, people could point to injuries, but every team has injuries. So I don't really like to use that as the crutch all the time. They did go out this season knowing that they were going to play all the young guys, and they didn't care. And they've, to their credit, have stuck with that. They have the most rookie snaps. And when you look at defense, they have, a second-year 6th-round pick in Bryce Hall, who is their best corner starting. They have a rookie 6th-round pick in Brandon Echols across from him starting. They have a rookie 5th-round pick in Michael Carter II starting in the slot, and a second-year UDFA Javelin Guidry, who's his backup. So the whole secondary at corner is basically day 3 rookies or second-year players, and they've actually been one of the brighter spots of the group, which is funny. They lost LaMarcus Joyner and Marcus May at safety. So Ashton Davis has not been very good, and then they've really thrown out street free agents next to him. And I'm not exaggerating. Like, the Tom Brady touchdown to win the game with 15 seconds left was against Elijah Riley. He was a recently undrafted guy out of Army 2 years ago.
I was going to say, I never even heard that name.
Yeah, exactly. A UDFA out of Army. So, and I'm not making up the name. Sure, you have CJ Mosley in the middle, but it's a scheme that, they really want to implement this scheme. And without the dogs for it to run, it looks ugly. The front four has to.
Funny how having Bosa and DeForest Buckner and pieces like
Fred
that.
Warner.
And Fred Warner, makes that defense look better. It's amazing.
Yeah, so it's a lot of pressure on Mosley. I think his legs are pretty tired right now. The run defense isn't very good. I think the front four, I told you guys this last time, they overshoot a lot of plays because they're coached to do that. And it's just such a young team that they're learning the hard way of, like, they're learning how to play in the NFL. They're learning how to play in this scheme. They're playing next to a lot of street free agents. So it's a colossal mess. And I personally give them a pass this year because they're developing young players. And I didn't think the Jets would be good this year. People are freaking out because they're like, this is a defensive coach. It probably is somewhere in the middle. You should be concerned, but it's also not the end of the world until next year looks like this.
So one piece pivoting back with this offense, I know you brought him up earlier. I don't know that I anticipated the flashes we've seen from Michael Carter. I knew,
Yeah.
watching, you saw both backs coming out of North Carolina's backfield, and a lot of people had said, no, I don't know. Obviously we've seen what Javonte Williams has done, but a lot of people were intrigued by, hey, wait till you see the speed for Michael Carter. And early on, I was like, I don't know if it's going to translate. You started to see some of that, the yards after contact or some of the big plays start to get broken off. How has that really been an added weapon to this offense to try to give Zach Wilson some chance to not be the sole focus of the defense?
The simple answer is, Greg, they have not had guys that break tackles lately, and he's a tackle breaker, and it's a lot deeper than that when you look at the kind of player he is, because he's not a 6'2", 230-pound running back. I'm telling you, defensive linemen lose him behind the scrimmage. He is tall. He's a pain in the ass to find. He's 5'7", and he's thick. He's built, but he's so low to the ground, and he's very short area quickness is his name of his game. He doesn't have long speed, but his short area quickness to change direction or pick a lane and put his foot in the ground and go in this wide zone scheme, and the blocking's been good in the run game, it has really worked for him. So I think the biggest thing with Carter is he's got burst, and he gets to the second level a lot thanks to the offensive line run blocking, and he just frustrates guys. He can make guys miss, but he's also very hard to tackle because normally guys are coming at him to tackle him, and his helmet is around their belly button when he ducks, and they can't get a grip on him. It's so cliche to go back to a guy like Darren Sproles, because there's been a lot of short running backs but when you think of prime Sproles, people really had trouble getting a grasp on him because they weren't used to tackling running backs that low to the ground. And with Carter, he's a very different player than Sproles, but it's the same thing as a tackle breaker. So they've loved, relying on him. He has gotten banged up. He's coming out of concussion protocol this week.
I was curious how they were going to handle that with the last
right.
game.
And do you really want to take that? There's a lot of weird risk for the Jets in this game, and I know they're not in the playoffs, so you laugh at risk. But they're down a ton of guys. The Bills are really good defensively.
You don't want an end of the year surgery, right?
Right. You don't want anything. Anyone blown out a knee. You don't want Zach taking unnecessary hits. I think Elijah Moore's not back right now, and they're working to get him back this week. And you kind of look and go, okay,
just ride it into the season.
Do we need to rush him back to go play in Buffalo?
But he's a perfect example where hey, you've seen the flashes, the potential is there. You know how special that is. Whereas at least concussion is a totally separate thing. But if it was a fringe one where, hey, we just started to see it with Carter, maybe we want to see one more game, I could at least kind of see that. With Moore, I'd be no question. Hey, no.
Shut him down.
Put it in the garage. Might. Yeah, we know we got the Ferrari in there. We'll take that out for a spin next year. We'll see where that goes. Now, how about the remaining pieces? Obviously, we know, Mekhi Becton, has had his issue, and we'll see. I'm always curious when you have those monster size guys, how anytime you start getting backs and things like that with really big monstrous guys, it always kind of sends shivers down my spine.
They don't recover the same.
Yeah, we saw what happened with Tony Baselli's career and other guys who are just elite athletes, but when you're 6'9" and that big, it's just not the same thing. Yeah. How have the rest of the line gone? How is we loved Elijah Vera Tucker. How has he worked without that monster next to him, and how has that developed?
Yeah, so it's been a weird year for the offensive line because you have the disappointment that Becton got hurt week 1 and missed the rest of the year. And that's, if you told someone that before the year, they'd be like, well, this season's lost in the offensive line. And surprisingly, George Fant had a career year at left tackle. He's going to be out for this game. Connor McGovern got a lot better at center down the stretch. He's out for this game, a knee injury. So they're missing their really 2 starting left tackles, but we don't really count Becton to this point. They're starting center, but Morgan Moses has been a really nice addition for them at right tackle. AVT is coming off his best game against Tampa where, I know I don't necessarily say gospel for PFF grades, but when I saw them grade him as a 91, I was like, okay, I'm actually excited to see this film. And he kicked ass against a Bucs veteran front. So AVT's been a blast to watch. And quietly, they made one of the best, not to pour any salt, but I think, you guys were really hoping that the Bills would make a move at the deadline. I can't believe they got Laurent Duvernay-Tardif for free. It's mind-boggling.
My wife is a McGill alum, so we follow Tardif because there's not a lot of McGill alum athletes out in the world.
I'm perplexed that they got him for free. I mean, I'm not saying he's an all-pro, but he's
a good
playing.
veteran.
He's playing really good football as a run blocker right now. So that's been a big upgrade from Greg Van Roten. And then Dan Feeney at center always scares you a little bit. He had a good week last week, but he's not a very good football player. I hate to be that blunt. So this group is patchwork, but I think they're very well coached, and they're executing the wide zone scheme really, really well. And, like I said, they're going to be missing pieces this week, but that's the name of the game. You got to go out there and play with what you got.
So let's bring it back to this particular game here this week, right? No matter who they're throwing out there, the Jets would love nothing more than to spoil the Bills' shot at an AFC East championship. I think Saleh, no matter who Saleh's playing out there, he's the kind of coach that's going to have guys ready.
Yeah, he wants to win.
Right? Yeah, he wants to win this game. Nobody's coming out to sleep on and just pack it in for this. And I think we've seen that out of the Jets. Their season's been over more or less here, and they've been playing better as the season goes on. So they're playing for something here. What do you think in this matchup is the path to the Jets coming away with a victory and coming away with that upset over the Bills in Orchard Park this weekend?
Man, I would be really shocked. I think it would take a special teams touchdown, and they've gotten that from Barrios. He's a great return, man. Good punt return.
Bills have been a little sloppy in special teams too.
Yeah, I mean, for the Jets to win this game, which I truly do not expect even close to that, it would take a special teams touchdown. LaFleur is the trick play master in the red zone. This guy is just obsessed with everything. He really mixes it up in the red zone. So it would take almost them to be flawless when they get in the red zone, because their trips there are going to be few and far between against this Bills team. So that, that's where it starts for me. And it would take a reckless Josh Allen game, not a bad Josh Allen game, like a true reckless, like you don't need to do this against the Jets kind of game. They are not that talented on defense. So I don't expect that to happen. I'd be very, very surprised.
Speaking of which, what are you expecting? What do you think we're going to see this weekend, and what do you predict?
I think it'd be kind of boring, to be honest with you. I think that
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, perfectly okay.
And I mean, so are Jets fans, right? Like you love that the Jets are playing well at this point, and this matters for next year in terms of guys buying in. But I mean, I think most Jets fans will tell you they don't want New England to win the division, which is hilarious. Right. They are in this bind where they're like, if we get an upset win, we're helping the Patriots. Like, no,
we don't want any part of that.
No, we want no part of that at all. And we're getting worse in the draft slot. Like, no, like everyone's screaming no. So, I think for me, I would look in this game, like the Bills are really good at forcing turnovers. I know the first half of the season, they had that stretch where they were forcing an unbelievable amount of turnovers. And Zach has finally dialed it in and scaled those back. He hasn't had a turnover in 4 games. So, like, which one is it going to be, right? I think if Wilson comes away, he's not going to come away with a perfect game, but if he throws one interception and plays a relatively clean game, but Josh Allen just torches your defense, that isn't going to hold up. I think that's kind of the path we're looking at here. I could see like a 31-13 kind of Bills win, something around there. I don't think the defense, I think the Jets defense is pretty gassed, and this is a pretty bad matchup for them. Nothing really good happens when they go up to Buffalo. All eyes are really on if the Jets can continue to run the ball the way they have and actually control the clock and keep the ball away from Josh Allen against that defense.
So really excited. And I know, plenty of folks know you from Stick to Football, your Jets Fun Hit. I want to tell fans, make sure you're checking out the Bleacher Report betting show. I'm a big fan.
Thank you, Greg.
Let the folks know what you have going on.
Yeah, it's been fun this year. I mean, I can't just wait for the draft season to come every year. So it's like, I'll host the betting show. So we partner with DraftKings. We do a show called Squad Ride where people send in how they make their picks. And it's not because they think it's a good choice. They'll go have their dog chase 2 treats and they'll pick one and they'll have a name written. And it's like, Jonathan Taylor's going to score this week. And we're like, all right, cool. DraftKings boost Jonathan Taylor to plus 110. And everyone's like, great, free money. So it's been a really fun show every 11 o'clock Sunday mornings. We're going to do it all through the playoffs. I think we're going to do it sometimes Saturdays too during the playoffs. So that's been fun. And then, I mean, you guys know the deal. When it's draft season, man, it's full throttle. I feel really good about this class right now. I have a live mock draft next Tuesday in the Bleacher Report app. I don't know what day it's going to be. I'll break down every pick on video. So it's going to be fun, man. I love this time of year. Even when the Jets aren't in the playoffs, there's plenty of work to be done. Which has been a long time. I don't have them on the calendar to be playing playoff football. It's like, okay, it's time for the draft.
Will you be at the draft this year?
I don't know. Last year we did it out of our Atlanta studios. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Depend. Right. I go where they tell me. I will be at the Senior Bowl though in a month.
Hey, I think we'll have some guys down there, so
great.
Definitely have to hook up.
Awesome. I definitely will get together with everyone.
Awesome,
All right.
man.
Appreciate you very much.
Appreciate
as always.
your time,
Make
man.
sure you guys checking out Connor J. Rogers on Twitter, all over Bleacher Report, everywhere you can find him.
Happy
Appreciate
New
your time,
Year.
Connor.
Happy New Year, guys, and good luck in the playoffs, for real.
Appreciate
you.
that. Thanks, man.
Obviously, kind of one of our favorite guests to be able to jump on and have some fun. I think, I think Bills fans, I wanted to make sure he talked about some of this upswing, some of the promise coming in, looking good. Barrios looking good. Carter looking good. Wilson,
Wilson's
calming down a little bit.
Set it
Talk
offline.
a little bit. Yeah,
I think he's second best quarterback. Second best quarterback in the AFC East. We got Tua, Mac Jones, who I think we all agree is better than Bills fans want to admit, but probably already at his ceiling. He's there. This is what I think he's going to be. I don't know that there's much better. I don't know how many better weapons the Patriots are going to get around him or a better offensive line. And what I've seen out of Wilson is sort of similar to first year Josh Allen. Like, you see the arm talent flashes. Like, this guy, when he gets Elijah Moore back, gets some weapons. Mims hasn't really worked out. If he gets some weapons and they can solidify that offensive line, like, this kid could do some stuff. And, we've been worried about, is Tua going to be a guy or not? And Mac Jones, is he going to be the guy? But I do think it's going to be going forward. I don't know if he'll be a winner in the National Football League, but I think Zach Wilson could be fun for Jets fans going forward.
I think you're spot on. I don't think it's even quite as hot as what some Bills fans might think it is. I think that, we joked, warming up for the show and talking with Connor, and I've said it to a lot of Patriots fans, and I mean it sincerely. I see a lot of rookie year Baker Mayfield in rookie year Mac Jones. Like, it doesn't mean it
even
wasn't
less
good.
athletic than Baker, which is
Baker Mayfield
weird.
Set the rookie record for touchdown passes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like, so much, but then in hindsight, it was, they had a great running game and a great offensive line and a sneaky defense, and that he was already kind of maxed out into what his potential was. And I see a lot of that in Mac Jones. It doesn't mean he's bad. I don't think Baker Mayfield's trash. I don't think he's horrible. I just don't think he's a franchise quarterback. And I think that's what we're going to find out with Mac Jones. And I think that someone like Zach Wilson, I don't know that he's going to be a franchise quarterback, but there's at least
the traits are
flashes of upside that he could be special. There's potential for special plays that at least you have the hope to cling to in that piece of it.
I agree with that.
As we kind of pivot over and take a look at the Uncle Jumbo's spotlight here, let's take a look at this injury report and see what is kind of creeping up here. I'm a little interested to see.
It's good to see Rick Bates.
Yeah.
Was limited.
I'm excited. I think that's a really promising start where if they were concerned at all, I have to imagine that's a DNP and that they don't even consider it. So him being a limited participant was promising there. A lot of that's veteran rest for everybody else. Ed Oliver, being limited is at least something to monitor. But
that was last week too. Same thing. Ankle limited early in the week, right? Was for Ed.
Yeah, it was exact same. So I think really to monitor here, it's, we keep an eye on FAO Bada. I don't think that's a critical piece for this week, but I want him as an option. But, Bates is the one to watch here. And then we talk through some of the names here of what we're going to see. I think, any chance that the Jets might have had to pull a sneaky upset would have been having all of those pieces on the offensive line, getting to their third left tackle and their backup center. That's going to be asking a lot this weekend.
For sure. Yeah, no. And on the Bill side, I've said this last week too. I think you're in territory of not same as the Jets where you're shutting it down for the year, but are we, if like Ed is needing treatments and like, do you give him a week to get right? Because he's going to be a big part of what you're trying to do going forward. Even FAO Bada is going to be a guy that you're really going to need that depth at the defensive line going forward in this playoff push. So, I'm not anticipating the Bills are going to take it lightly, and I think they'll activate some of these guys that are on injury. But if it was me and I was managing this team, I would really consider, hey, if there's guys getting treatments tomorrow that are significant treatments, I'm not risking it. We saw last year, like Cole Beasley getting hurt right before the playoffs started. Like, you lose one of those guys, or even just a nagging type of injury that gets a little bit more aggravated, but that can be the difference between winning games in the playoffs and not.
100%. I want to read Kel's super
1,000%.
1,000%. Just saying, evening is always good to see Connor. Every time that we talk to him, we win a game on Sunday. So
that's not fair to Connor though, because we've only had him on the last 2 seasons. The Jets ain't winning games the last 2 seasons.
Not good time from that standpoint. And absolutely, he's spot on. Everybody hit that like button. We need those likes.
Yeah, we'll give some likes. It really does help, actually. I know I hate to ask for that stuff, and we don't love to ask for comments and likes, but it helps the YouTube algorithm. You guys have been killing it lately because we've been getting some good views. So keep up the good work.
We appreciate it very, very much. Yeah. So the final spotlight here is I want to give a little bit more shine. The more that I keep looking at Harrison Phillips, man, like it seems real. And I'm excited to see what he can do in this playoff stretch and closing out the season, and in, God bless him, in his free agent contract year, looking to get some money, and probably took himself from, at one point, a veteran minimum invite back to camp without even a guaranteed roster spot, to now maybe a 2-year deal with some guaranteed money and a very firm guaranteed roster spot. Good for him. Going back and watching, it was more than just the flash plays. He was consistently disruptive. He was moving guys around. It was exciting to see here now, back-to-back games of really strong, but not even 2 in a row, multiple games in a row.
Like a month and a half of him heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
Good for him getting fully over that injury. Like, you're just never sure if a guy's going to fully recover from it. He had those videos out talking about how hard that recovery was on him, both physically and mentally. So I'm happy for him. And obviously being the Walter Payton Man of the Year award nominee for the Bills shows that he's the kind of guy that deserves that kind of.
They want to invest in him.
Yeah,
they want to have a guy like
this
that.
Is
4 straight games with double-digit pressures.
Yeah, this guy's the process. Brandon Beane's talked about it. They want to take care of the guys they've drafted, the guys they've brought in, developed. Harrison Phillips checks all of these boxes.
Eric noticing Harrison is very good looking. So that's, it's obviously a huge compliment there.
Wait, he looks like you, and he's good looking? Just kidding. You're a good looking guy.
Eric Farrell here. Hi, guys. Any chance we try to sign Horrible Harry before the end of the season? If so, what kind of contract do we expect? I have played around a little bit. I don't it would be. I think the team's company line is we are focused on the playoffs. We're focused on the games. We're not taking anything away from that.
Taryn was even a little bit of a weird in season.
That's normally not their MO. I'm not saying it's impossible. There's a non-zero chance. I would be very surprised. I would be very, very surprised.
Won't lie to you guys. I'd be a little annoyed if they got Harrison done before Levi in the season, because I do think Levi's put up enough for longer track record, and probably is sooner deserving if it was going to be an extension than Harrison. But so that would annoy me if they can get both of those guys done.
From a value standpoint, and the injury and the track record is the reason I have different years, but I actually have them at relatively similar per year numbers. I have Harrison Phillips at 2 years, $8 million, $4 million a year. And I have Levi at the same $4 million a year, but 3 years, $12 million. I think both of them deserve a little bit of a raise. I don't think either of them are getting into a premium area, but Levi Wallace deserves more than the $1.75 million he got this year, which was just a slight bump above the minimum. I think he deserves
Trey's
security.
Absence.
Oh, he's so dependable.
Yeah, and this is a big part of the future with Harrison Phillips. So, like you talked about, he went from being that vet minimum guy to then getting himself to this. And a lot of fans would be like, oh, well, bummer. But like, this is actually this is one of those areas where I'm happy to pay more, because now you know that you're solidifying that interior, the defensive line. You mentioned his play, but it's also gone hand in hand with Ed Oliver. Like the two of them together, that unit together is super exciting for me in the future. And then some of those flash plays that we saw from Greg Rousseau in this game, like you start to see some of these young guys. This is the future of this Buffalo Bills defensive line. I'm happy to invest in it. I want to see this going forward. And then I think, next year hopefully we get the development of Boogie Basham and that guy that's able to kick into the interior and spell some of these guys. Like you start to see the vision that Brandon Beane was putting together for this defensive line going forward. They still have some development to go, but it's not as bad as I thought it was in August, September, when I was thinking, man, when Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison are gone and Star Latulle is gone, like we're full of holes and we don't even have starters. Now I feel pretty confident that you have your future starters are already locked in here.
Well, and we're starting to see you can tell the team trusts them differently and more so because they're not playing the same rotation level. There was a long stretch here during the season where every defensive lineman played between 45 and 55% of the snaps. No one was stretching themselves out. Now, the last couple games, both Harrison and Ed are getting to 65, 68, almost 70% of the snaps and being the primary defensive tackles to be able to be in that spot. So it's been exciting to see that. They've earned some of that money. And we're seeing some of those other pieces. I think this week is going to be a big one. AJ Epinesa had a flash play or two in the last game, but again, not anything consistent. We have not seen that there. Same idea. We saw a little bit of a lull from Gregory Rousseau. We saw a pretty big flash play with him getting a strip sack here. So at least there's reason to hope that Epinesa and Rousseau are coming back the right direction. But yeah, we had not seen that. We've seen Starr take a pretty sizable step back. Even Eli Ankow was getting, as many reps as what Starr was. So we'll see where that goes. And a reason that I projected the money that I did for Harrison Phillips is I think you can pretty directly take Vernon Butler's contract that expires and just hand it to Harrison Phillips.
Right.
And then we'll draft another guy or maybe have Eli Ankow. Maybe we'll see if Justin Zimmer can come back. Maybe they try to go the cheaper route with that fourth guy rather than having five guys and having to juggle Vernon Butler's contract. You have Ed, you have Harry. We'll see if we get one more year from Starr. I think that's maybe more on the table than what we thought. Maybe they do want to get out of that one. But Harrison Phillips and Ed Oliver are reasons for hope in that defensive tackle group.
Absolutely.
So now pivoting over, we'll get to some of the numbers that we want to look at for this game and where it's going to take us. And I know you put together a couple graphics for the people. Why don't we take a look at some of those here and see what it does for us here? We'll start with the first matchup. And why don't you talk to people through what we are looking at here with our explosive plays in this matchup?
Yeah, so explosive plays, obviously I love to track this just in terms of toxic differential. Still think it matters in the NFL. Again, there's been a number of games like this, right, Greg, for the Bills where they sort of just winning out these different metrics. So we'll run it through offensive explosive plays. Again, this is pass plays over 20 yards, rush plays over 10 yards, which can get confusing because when I'm counting them during the game and I'm talking about them, I'm only tracking the 20 plus.
It's easier too hard to track live 20 in real time.
Yeah, to do the 10-yard runs is a lot of work. You have to go back and do it. But the Jets' explosive pass plays, they are 13th in the NFL right now. They have 50. That is one more than the Buffalo Bills, who are 16th currently in the NFL. So, I mean, we talk about this Bills passing game being explosive. The Jets have been able to get off some explosive plays. Now, no Elijah Moore would change that here in this week, and the lack of the receivers would definitely have an impact on that going forward here. Explosive runs, that has ramped up for him over the last couple of weeks. But again, if they don't have Michael Carter
solely responsible for that.
Yeah, you're not going to get a lot of that either out of him. But they have 44 explosive runs on the year, and so they're 19th. So not as bad. When you look at a lot of the other metrics for the Jets, they're really towards the
bottom.
Their
issues
of the
are
league.
Consistency, not explosive plays. They actually have some explosive plays.
Yeah.
You'll get to it in a moment. They give up more than they have, but they actually produce more than fans would assume.
Absolutely. And so on the Bills side of the ball, they have not what I wanted to be at this point in the season was top 10 in both of these categories. And actually they have slipped into the top 10 in explosive runs, but explosive pass, again, they're 49th, which is good for 16th. And explosive runs, they have 54 explosive runs, which is good for 7th. A lot of that's on the back of Josh Allen. And obviously Devin Singletary's rise here.
Still leading the NFL in yards per carry.
Absolutely. And this is really good to see them getting up those explosive runs. Again, all offseason, Greg, you, I, every podcaster out there was pounding the table of we don't need more running, we need more efficient running, and that's what you get. Explosive plays are efficient running. So, and we're not seeing them run all that much more. So this is great to see them get into that top 10 heading into the playoffs. That's going to come in handy. Hopefully they can up this explosive pass number as well as we ramp into the playoffs here. On the defensive side of the ball, this will be confusing to people looking at it that can't read it. First is giving up the most. If you're in the top 5, you're giving up the most in the league. 32nd is the least, so or fewest. So we're going to go explosive passes. The Jets have given up 70 explosive passes. That's so many. They're second.
Shocked 70 isn't first.
Yes. Actually, and I messed up the graphic here. I have it as second because the other team was third. I think last week the Falcons were third, and I didn't. So I made the mistake. So it's second. But they're second in the league. And then explosive runs too, like 58 explosive runs. So they're fourth. So that's good for So just for kind of to give you guys some perspective, the Bills have been they've been in the top 5 in toxic differential, which is these explosive plays plus turnover differential gives you toxic differential. Bills right now are plus 31 in that category. The Jets are minus 47, which is, I believe, is dead last. Houston might be right there with them, right around plus 40 something or minus 40
Although
something.
Houston's been kind of spunky lately too.
Yeah, it's bad. Minus 47 is bad. And obviously Connor talked about the amount of turnovers early in the season definitely leans towards this, but the amount of plays they're giving up still doesn't change it. On the Bills side of the ball, things are still pretty good. Explosive pass plays, they're 31st. They've only given up 31 explosive pass plays in the NFL. This is the cornerstone of the Sean McDermott
bread and butter of that scheme.
Yeah, beat us. You're going to have to beat us with 10 play drives, and you're probably going to make a mistake, and we're not. Explosive runs, probably the biggest Achilles heel of this defense, but still better than the Jets here. They only get up 49, which is good for 21st. So they're still in that top half of the NFL and not giving up those runs, which is good perspective, right? Because we talk about, how bad this Bills run defense is, and they're constantly giving up big runs. But to be 21st means you're in the top half of the league and giving up those explosive runs. So it's not as bad. Again, we have to have perspective and view them to their peers. And it's not
remember the Jonathan Taylor run, and then we remember the Damian Harris run, and we remember the Fournette run. It's actually less frequent than what we remember it being.
Correct.
All right, so obviously going through the explosive plays leads right into what we see in the DVOA matchup itself. So talk to people through what we have here in DVOA and why.
Seen a lot of these DVOA charts this year, Greg. And so far, though, this year doesn't mean much. I think it'll mean more probably this weekend, but this looks a lot like what we saw last week against the Falcons matchup. So overall DVOA, this is not weighted. If you do like DVOA weighted, it adjusts more for recent play, which the Jets actually have a better weighted DVOA. So we'll talk about it. Overall, they're currently 26th. They're 23rd in weighted, so a little bit better than they show up here. The Bills are still third. They've been hanging out right there. In weighted overall, though, they are 8th, I think. Or no, they're 5th in weighted overall. So the last couple of games, I think that game against Atlanta, I think hurt them in terms of DVOA here. On offense, the Jets are 20th overall, which I actually was surprised. I thought it was going to be a little bit worse. They've had a pretty big boost here lately. They're 15th in weighted offense. And you have seen that with what Connor was talking about, not turning the ball over, getting Zach Wilson going, getting these explosive plays. That all adds to that. The Bills offense still in that top 10. They are 8th overall in offense and 7th in weighted. So exactly where I wanted them to be to get to this point in the year and finish off the year with both offense and defense in the top 10. Defensive side of the ball, here's where your big break is, and what I think is going to be the outcome in this game. On the defensive side of the ball, the Jets are 32nd in the league. They are 32nd in weighted. It's just not good. They're just not a good defense by every single metric. It shows up all over tape. Bills are still third. They haven't moved. They've been in that top 3 all year long. And again, for the people that every week I put this out, somebody comes into my mentions like, well, they played backup quarterbacks. So they played this and that. DVOA is literally accounting for the opponent you're playing. It is a stat that has context. So please, guys, check out Football Outsiders. Go look up the definition of DVOA and how they account for it. It's a very good stat. It's not an end-all be-all. There's no one data point that will tell you exactly how a football game is going to go or what a team is going to do. This one's a good one. And it's historically, if you read some of the articles that they put up, historically, those top 10 DVOA teams are the teams that move forward and advance in the league and get into the playoffs. So it's a pretty good metric. Bills are still...
Go ask the Chargers how Davis Mills plays at quarterback. Like people threw that out there as this like free gimme. He put up 41 points on the Chargers in an upset win. Like it's not necessarily as easy as people trying to make it out to be.
Correct. Special teams. This one's a weird one to me. I think this has a lot weighted towards the return game for the Jets, but they're third overall in the NFL and first in weighted special teams in the NFL. And the Bills are 15th. And this is, if you're going to lose a game like this, like we saw letting the Falcons hang around and making that game a little bit closer than it should have been, it's going to be with a special teams mistake or two, and they have the ability to return them. They're punt return coverage isn't very good, which is kind of shocking that they're third overall in special teams and first and weighted with, I think they give up some of the most yards per return in the punt game. So I don't know how that worked out. But this special teams is a very good special teams unit. And if they're going to have any shot in this game, it's going to come there.
Obviously, that takes us to the point of a prediction from ourselves, and that looking at what we're expecting to see here this weekend, Vegas has it, I think, an extreme. I've seen it, between 15.5 and 17. So right now I see it at 15.5 points with an over under of 41.5. So they are projecting.
Is this the first time the Bills have had like double two score back to back?
It's been a while since that's been the case. It's a lot. So Vegas is projecting like a 28-13, 30-13 kind of game, 30-14 kind of game. I don't see with this offensive line, it's still a rookie quarterback. It's still Zach Wilson's first game against a Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott defense. They've been consistently stellar against rookie and young quarterbacks. I don't think they're going to move the ball a lot. I don't know. I think the Bills are going to be very vanilla. I don't think they're going to share or expose a lot from a game plan standpoint. I think the under is safe. I think they'd love to sit some guys at the end of this game. So I think it might not be the most exciting game in the world. But I think we might see something like 23-10. So I've got it 23-10. I think it's going to be low scoring. I think it's going to be right around where the Bills cover, similar to the Atlanta game. I think they're going to win comfortably. Maybe there's a moment where it seems closer than we would like it to be. But I don't know that it's going to be this enormous blowout because I don't know. I think the Bills are going to keep an awful lot close to the chest.
So I thank you for putting your hand in there. You're a little blurry and you're too handsome to be blurry. I don't like that. Yeah. Off. I actually think it's going to be a blowout. I have it. 30,
I hope so.
Yeah, I have it 34-13. Okay. And I think I do agree that we'll see it a little bit vanilla. I think one, Leslie Frazier, Sean McDermott, like you said.
Don't run Josh Allen this game.
Yeah, I don't want to see that.
Give Josh Allen a break.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I do think Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott are going to confuse Wilson and create some turnovers in this game. I see this one a little bit. Did I freeze up? I think I'm frozen.
It's funny. You were good the whole time. You were saying you were frozen, and then you froze up after you.
And then it froze. It looked like it froze on my side. I apologize about that. The wind out here has made my power flicker.
Everybody listening knows exactly. We actually do have listeners worldwide. We get views and listens from all over the world. Yeah. Most of them come from Western New York. All the ones from Western New York listening to this know exactly what was going on Wednesday night. So bear with Aaron. It's
been a rough night here. I didn't even think we'd get through to this far, so I'm happy we're here. But I actually see this game a lot like that Miami game last year, and Miami had more to play for, right? But I think you'll see even some Bills backup, some guys coming in and still making big plays and still controlling this game.
Excited for their moment.
Getting their moment to play, and we'll see some big plays from backup running backs or whoever it is, and scoring a lot of points. I think this is going to be a ride off to the sunset, something for the fans of Western New York to win that AFC East championship and bring it home. I think Sean McDermott, a lot of the players have talked about Sean McDermott made that a point in the team meetings that they haven't done that in 30 years. I think that the team wants to come out and put on a show. Not in the sense that they want to, like you said, they're not going to run a ton of stuff that people are going to see in the playoffs, but I think they want to put their foot on this team, easily win this division, and give that to the fans as their gift. Since we didn't get it last year, even with a great season, I think they'd like to hand that to the fans. So I think we get a 34-13 victory, AFC East back-to-back champs celebration.
I love it. I love it. I hope that's what happens.
The weather might not allow it, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see where that goes. It looks like it might be a mess, although it's trending colder and more to snow, which would be better.
A mess might even make it even more of a blowout.
Yeah, the wintry mix, the Jets might just pack it in and be done and not want to mess with that at all. So we'll see what we get. I do expect a comfortable Bills win. I do expect them to take that home. And hopefully we just had a fun show. If you guys want to hear some takes on Aaron and I's projections for playoff opponents and who could be out there, make sure you check out Disguised Coverage. We were both guests on there with Anthony Prohaska, talking through who we want to play, who we least want to play, and what we expect to happen. So make sure you check that out. It's a lot of fun. As we kind of wrap this up here, soak this all in, Bills fans. I think we've gotten a little spoiled, a little entitled. I think there's a lot of people who are disappointed in this season, and that ultimately it's very likely we're going to win the division and host playoff games and win a playoff game, I believe, and have a chance to go on a nice, exciting run in a very wide open AFC playoffs and ultimately a wide open NFL. I don't think there's any dominant team right now. So I know it maybe wasn't as easy as we expected. It wasn't as good as the record that either Aaron and I projected, but I still think can be a very good season and the potential for a very exciting end of the season. I've said it over and over and over again. Everything's on the table. Well, one thing is now off the table. There is now no possibility that we miss the playoffs. The next thing is all things are on the table. We could lose to the Jets. We could lose the division. I don't think that's going to happen either. And as we continue to eliminate those bottom end scary parts of all things being on the table, people need to realize the other side of that is there too. And I'll tell you, pre-show, Connor shared with us, anytime you have a quarterback like Josh Allen, it means you could go on a run and win a Super Bowl. And anytime you have that hope, that's as much as any NFL fan base can wish for. And we have it. We have a franchise quarterback that if he gets hot and goes on a run, he could carry us to a championship. And I'm still going to hope that that's true until I'm proven that it's not. So I enjoy this. Enjoy the game that Aaron projected that we may see this weekend. A celebration of the AFC East division championship in front of fans for the first time in 27 years. Let's enjoy that. Aaron, what do you expect as we close out this regular season?
Yeah, I think you hit a good point that we've gotten a little entitled, especially the way we on Twitter, which I don't think is reality, the way the fan base, our expectations and our search for a perfect roster has kind of muddled the water of really where expectations should be. I think this year, if anything, should have been a real good reality check of how the NFL really is and how close it is and how slim those margins of success and failure are in this league. There is not a huge drop between the really good teams and the really bad teams in the NFL. There's parity. The salary cap exists for a reason. They built this league so that teams can be competitive. But one thing that even in this competitive salary cap league that's super important, and you can't do it without it, is getting the quarterback right. We've seen really good teams that have done everything supposedly the right ways. Cleveland Browns. People have praised their analytics in drafting and the way they go after free agents and the way they've developed that roster. But you know what? They missed on the quarterback. They didn't get, I think they got a good NFL starter, a capable NFL starter, but they did not get a franchise guy that can be the guy that leads you to victory. The Buffalo Bills have that. And some dude on Twitter was going off about how the Bills Super Bowl window's closing quick and they're going to lose all these free agents. Baloney. That is total BS. This Bills Super Bowl window is open as long as Josh Allen's wearing a Buffalo Bills uniform. That window is open.
Year.
So the Packers haven't won a lot of Super Bowls, but that window has been open since Brett Favre. When Aaron Rodgers came in, that window stayed open. As long as you've got that guy, really nothing else matters. You can piece together a roster that's good enough. Brandon Beane will make sure the salary cap's good enough to field a roster on this team. As long as we have 17, anything's possible. You just got to punch your ticket to the playoffs each and every year. And then once you're in the tournament, a guy like 17 can go off at any time. So enjoy it. Let's take off that entitlement. The team's never going to be perfect. We're never going to have a perfect roster. We're going to have good players with flaws. But as long as 17's in charge, guys, this window's wide open. And I couldn't be happier. I got a 5-year-old son who knows Josh Allen now. I saw Sal Capaccio floor hockey the other night, and we were sitting there talking, and he was showing pictures of his son with Josh Allen. We're both saying, like, how great is it to have the guy here? And we know he's gonna be here until my son's in middle school. And playing a quarterback. He's larger than life. Like, there's never been a better time to be a Bills fan. So get rid of the entitlement and just soak this moment up.
Absolutely. Well said. Honestly, I know we're not the biggest fans of him, but I just saw similar things like that with teenage sons watching Ben Roethlisberger's last game, where the dad posted saying he's the only quarterback they've ever
seen. Yeah.
He's the only one
I
they
want
know.
that for my son.
All they know is 15 straight winning seasons and 2 Super Bowls.
Yep.
That's what I want for our children, is to look back in 15 years and say, hey, this is all they know, is winning seasons every year,
Little
Hopefully-
entitled brats
hopefully-
running around.
A couple championships would be
Yeah.
great. But yeah, I would love for my children to be entitled brats that only
Just don't know
winning as
winning.
Bills
Only know
fans.
winning. Yeah.
That's all they know.
Yeah.
On that note, thank you for joining us tonight. Make sure you check out our sponsors, Underdog Fantasy. Use the promo code Cover1. Get yourself some free money. Uncle Jumbo's, make sure to check them out. We might have some exciting new sponsors to share with you guys soon. Listen up. We got some exciting things in the works. You're going to be able to check that out pretty soon. But on behalf of Aaron Quinn, I'm Greg Thompson. You've been listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we